Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for October 18th, 2016. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, and here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES right now. We see that in overnight trading, prices have pushed through the top of the previous session's digestion range. We had a little bit of tiny range here where it was just two-sided trade throughout the day. Very nothing range for the most part. And the last thing I mentioned to our trading room yesterday before we got off the call was the upcoming day could be big in terms of breaking or breaching this range. And already pre-market overnight trading, we've seen that happen. So a lot of the day's range has already been put in. That doesn't mean we can't see more highs, but this has already been a big squeeze beyond the previous session's high. Major squeeze event here. One thing that I usually mention is when you see this happen, when price pushes through the top of a range here, this midpoint usually continues until it reaches at where the stops came out or beyond it. So there could be a little bit more strength here in the day, but we've already have a high range day here. And what will be important is the upcoming day, because if we finish this current session strong, the upcoming day will look for bulls to defend the midpoint of the previous session or the previous day's high, and then look to defend for a shot at continuing higher. So this is going to be important to see if they can keep these gains throughout the session. Obviously, these down here on these lows here, we've seen bulls come in and defend prices below 2120. A nice rejection tail here, kind of an absorption signatures that has developed here with a big whipsaw in the middle. So this is not easy by any stretch, and this is what I continue to mention. This range right here is very difficult right now, and it's probably going to persist this way until the election. So be very careful, very cautious in here. Not a lot of great swing trading opportunities at the moment in the higher time frames. If we drop down to the intraday time frame right now, you can see how directional this rally has been. Very unidirectional, trending move here to the upside. You see how sloping VWAP is a very bullish slope to VWAP. That typically implies that any pullback is a buying opportunity until proven otherwise. You can see just now price is pushing beyond R3 on the PivotBoss bands. That's the third standard deviation of VWAP. That's typically a price discovery phase tendency. So pullbacks to R3 or even as low as R2 are typically defended ahead of the next move up. So we continue to see strength here. Our next key level up is 2144.75, and based off average daily range from the current session's low, average 100% daily range would be right here about 2141, and the extension would be up at around 46. So we still have more upside here, and pullbacks are to be defended until proven otherwise. And as soon as price cannot hold VWAP, that could lead to a counter trend move, at least back into the previous week's close of 21.26 for a retest. All right, let's take a look at crude oil now. Here's crude oil. We have a rollover in crude that has happened, so we're seeing a minor gap here in the continuation chart to the upside. One thing you notice about crude up here is that it's just sitting near recent highs. This is the key range that we marked out a while back and mentioned this is going to be a big time key range to watch. Here's the midpoint of that key range. We kind of chopped around the middle of it, and then here we saw the expansion. And we were pretty bullish during that expansion phase. We were looking for pullbacks to defend for a continuation. And really, we haven't done much since the expansion. We've just hung up here near these recent highs. So we're just building a little bit of a range right now. 49 up to about 51.70. That is the range. And currently, we're right at the center of that range. So again, you know, there's really no edge until you test the edges of that range. Once price pulls back toward 49s, it could be a great buying opportunity. If price comes above, 41.70, 51.70 and can't hold, it could be a great selling opportunity. But right now, we're stuck in the range, and that implies that we should be looking at the intraday time frame at the moment. We have a gap up, again, a continuation chart here with the rollover, but right here, we're just forming a little bit of a range, 50.5 up to about 50.85, tight little range here. If prices can't hold 50.5, we could drop right back into 5-day VPOC at 50.10 with a shot to retest 49.85 Prices below there were trapped yesterday, so I would say any pullback into this area could still be a buying opportunity back up to trap these late bears. Overall, given the fact that we're above 50 here is very important. This is a major key level in the charts, so that's the pivot for the day. Above or below that level. Failure to hold it auctions this thing down. Continuing to hold it could expand this thing to the next level up, which would be about 51.20, at least in the near term. Based off the current session's low, which probably won't hold, right now we have an average move target for the day at 51.72. So, but I believe that both edges of this range will be reached. So right now we have a little bit of a trading range. We could see this thing kind of expand outward and test both edges ahead of the major move to come. All right, let's take a look at gold futures here, because gold is finally making its little bit of a move higher here. One thing we mentioned in the trading room is that right now, let's take a look here at the daily time frame. Here it is. So in gold right now, we continue to talk about this absorption signature that has been developing, but I mentioned from the very beginning that it did not look right, quote unquote right. It started with this double-ended tail here, and then it just wasn't getting the lift we were expecting. But the thing we mentioned was prices need to get above 64s and especially 68s. And right now we see prices testing 64s and backing off a little bit. We have a very tight range from 43 up to about 68. And the expectation is after this sell-off, you have bears coming in here trying to keep this thing lower, bulls trying to keep this a support. So we have a very clear area here that fuel that's been building that energy and fuel for the next move. If price can get above 68s, it could be a nice return back toward 1306 to 1310. If there's any failure to hold above 68s, this could be the opportunity to sell it for new lows. So 68 is a big time level to watch for gold. All right, let's take a look lastly at the NQ here. The NQ, again, this one is holding near highs. One thing I found important here was 48.40. That's a key level. I moved it up from 48.20, and you can see that these late buyers up here weren't able to get paid, so you rolled back a little bit. You formed this tail, and you see that price came in, defended off the midpoint of that tail a couple of sessions, and here we're now squeezing above 48.40. So short term right now, you're seeing some strength. You're seeing price attempt to hold at 48.40. I would continue to watch this level. If there's any failure to hold above 48.40, you could auction this thing right back toward the previous close, just above 4,800. If we are able to hold and close above 48.40 today, that could lead to a retest of the previous week's high, which is up here at about 4,900. So that's what we're going to be looking for here. 48.40 is the key level to watch, the pivot here. The intraday chart here shows how unidirectional that rally has been as this thing has pushed higher out of the previous session's range. This is what I mentioned yesterday again as we were closing the trading room. We've had such a quiet digestion day that played out. I mentioned that usually what follows from that is a major stop run day in either direction. Watch for it. And you can see right in after hours trading here, this thing just burst through that high and has continued to push up. You can see how unidirectional this rally's been and how strong that VWAP is. We're outside R3. Obviously, the market cannot maintain that pace, but we do expect bulls to come in and defend pullbacks, at least short term, until prices fail to hold above 48.40. That could be important. Any failure to hold 48.40 could auction this thing back to 5-day VPOC at about 48.18. Overall, if prices can hold above 48.40, we could see a continuation higher toward 48.62 and perhaps even beyond that. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.